be obvious that families don't belong in courts, but it isn't. We live in a divorce culture, a place where we have come to learn how to hire a gun to do what we can't accomplish with our spouses in conflict. And somehow, that's okay. It is obvious that the kids of divorce in this 21st century are hurting when a win occurs because one of the child's parents is minused out of their lives. In courts, a win will always happen no matter how many years it takes to discover a winner, and winning means dysfunction for your kids in 75% of all divorces. My question is, are you getting this picture? I have with me to discuss the issue of the horror in courts. On my left, Melissa Shea, and to her left, Gary Jacobs, and to his left, Mark Schwaber. Okay, subject is family court horrors, and this is the time where you can tell us a little bit about your own individual case that is a horror. This should be easy. This is why you're here.
We're all here.
Why don't you start, Melissa?
Mine was pretty, it should have been a basic who the custodial parent should have been. I was a subject of domestic violence. I was 9 months pregnant when my husband beat me so bad that my jaw was broken and the baby had to be induced. He violated the court order of protection, I think 6 or 7 more times. Judge threw him into jail. He had $150,000 bail. He posted it, and he was supposed to be sentenced for 5 years. I didn't think that was going to be in the best interest of the children, so I advocated to keep the father of the children out of jail, but we needed to stay safe. So we went from home to home, and then next thing he knows, about a year or 2 later, he files a petition for custody of the kids, saying it's not in the best interest of the children that we move around so much. So he said that they were staying with him, which wasn't the truth. We went up in court. The judge gave him temporary custody till we could go to a trial.
Which meant, of course, temporary is
temporary is just
permanent.
Giving them, but just like you, that they had said, just sign this stipulation, you know, you'll look good in the judge's eyes. And of course, I've never been in trouble with the law. I didn't want to fight a judge. You know, it's my first experience in court.
It's intimidating.
It's intimidating. Plus, you have other factors, like when you have domestic violence. I had IDV court, and for any of the viewers out there that have been subjected to Judge Krucka's abuse in his courtroom, mostly the women, he's there to protect you from domestic violence, but even though the children had an order of protection against their father, he goes and gives them temporary custody. So that's how it was, and then we had to wait for a trial. Well, it's 5 years later, and
so
never had a trial.
It took 5 years, you didn't get a trial.
Nope.
You lost custody, and he committed domestic violence.
Right.
What am I missing?
And he was behind on his child support and arrears of maintenance. He never paid 2 years of his maintenance, outright refused and said he will not pay it at all. He was behind in his child support over $15,000. And the most difficult thing was when I had to sign the agreement. My attorney told me that on the stipulation I had no choice. I had to sign giving temporary custody, and the judge said he would give temporary custody of the children to the father. So once we did that, we said we were just awaiting a trial, and that trial never came. It's 5 years later, and I never got a trial. It keeps postponing to one judge after another. And so I just simply got cut out of their lives. I didn't know also that there's no such thing as joint custody, and so I lost all my legal rights, and I was never informed of that I had to sign that agreement, that would be the case.
Yeah, you have a case for going after the attorney too, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Gary?
My case is already going 11 years, so it's difficult to recap. But what I think it boils down to is just a lethal combination of a bunch of bad things that came together. For example, I was married to a woman who had psychological problems, was mentally ill. And a lot of times we talk about parental alienation, which for the viewers is turning children against a parent, which is something that most people never heard of, you know, because they didn't deal with it.
I never admissible in court.
I never heard of it either. Now it just rolls off my tongue. We all know what it is, but it's returning, and it does happen.
Everybody knows what it is except the course.
Right. You know, it's like a cult. But I was married to a woman who's a sociopath, and they're very good at manipulating people. They manipulate me. She did it to her first husband. She manipulates the children. Then on top of that, I ended up having a judge, Judge Marion McNulty in Suffolk County, who was a nightmare. The woman was biased against fathers. She was against men in general. Specifically, she didn't like homosexuals. She didn't like minorities. But listen, you can have a bad seed, but then you have the chief judge of the courts who let this go on. Right now we have Randall Hinrichs, who, in my opinion, should not only be fired, he should be thrown in jail because he knew what she was doing. But getting back to my case, my ex-wife was a sociopath, and all I wanted to do was share custody of my kids and go on with my life. I'm a loving father. I live for my children. We had a forensic report that said that I was a loving father. Not that I needed.
Why don't you tell them about your daughter's situation? That your absence may have something to do with her situation.
Listen, the statistics are so clear on what happens to children when they're raised without a parent.
Yes, I gave that.
There's different things when they're raised without a father. The girls end up dating older men and getting into bad relationships.
And more promiscuous
they're more promiscuous. Right. They get abused more often. They end up getting into drugs because they're feeling all this pain that they can't show. And the real victim, and listen, I've suffered. I put on a good front when I tell my case because you have to, in your mind, you have to compartmentalize
you have to rationalize them.
And if you don't put it to a certain part of your mind, you won't be able to go forward. And that's
you didn't know you were going to have to do that in your life,
no,
did you?
That's why so many men end up getting depressed, and men and women.
And
women. Sorry, I should say. I just say. I'm talking from my perspective. So, and obviously it's just as tragic when it happens to the woman. Just
sure.
More often happens to men. But the bottom line is, I was removed from my children's lives. And listen, my ex-wife could try to do it. She's a sick woman.
And they were removed from yours, and that decision, that subject never get brought up.
Right.
Either.
I mean, I have shared custody. My ex-wife turned my kids against me. She brainwashed them. She's a sick, evil woman. But you know what? She couldn't have done it without the help of Judge Blydenberg and Marion McNulty and a law guardian.
And family law. And
I'll say their names, Chris.
Yeah.
Kathy Small, the law guardian. The woman was a nightmare. She was a puppet for the judge. And this woman is out there today taking people's money to help them with their case when she doesn't care about
what credential does the law guardian have?
She's a lawyer, and she's determining what's good
how does a lawyer
for
have
my children. It's
in
ridiculous.
Relationship to parenting?
A plumber could.
Right.
That's like saying a plumber does.
I'd sooner a plumber, right.
And I personally hold them, and I'm saying it on camera, and thousands of people are watching. It's being recorded, being video. I hold Judge Marion McNulty and Kathy Small, the law guardians, responsible, as well as my ex-wife, for what they did to my children's lives, what they did to me and them. I hold them all responsible. And if it takes till the last day that I'm alive, I will hold them responsible for what they did.
Right.
I have to agree with the law guardian. The law guardian, I would have naturally assumed, would have been on my side, being that the history of domestic violence. And you know what she said to me? Well, it's not like he's beating you now. I said that plays no part in that. The fact that he has an order of protection against the children, that shouldn't play any part in this. And no, they just side whoever they want to, and really the judge just goes along with whoever the law guardian wants.
Really the law guardian.
That's pretty much what it is. And they have the least, in my opinion, the least amount of experience. Go ahead, Melissa, I'm sorry.
And they're not subject to do what's in the best interest of the children. They are to advocate for their children. And my children were 2, 4, and 8 when they were taken from me. And she actually had the nerve to say to me that my children chose to live with their father over their mother. My 2-year-old couldn't even form a sentence.
Yeah,
how could that be? I'm so
that,
indignant about that.
Yeah.
And Kathleen Kane is the one I hold responsible for that.
But there is an out. They hide behind this thing that they have to do what the children want.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of nonsense, because if they know, the law does have an out that it says if they know that your children are being coerced and what they're asking for is not in their best interest, they are to tell the judge on the record that they believe that their children were coerced and that they're not asking for what's in their best interest, but I am still going to do what they want. I am going to advocate for that. But they never put in that disclaimer. So
you're both assuming that the law guardians actually have a real role in this, which is actually kind of...
Well, they do.
They
have a big role.
My law guardian, who I will have to say on the opposite side, he was actually advocated for me, advocated on my behalf, but when the trial and the case really came down to it, it had nothing to do with what the best interest of the children was.
They may not have decided to side with him. These people are more often siding with the person they want to side with.
Well, with the
judge. The judge has a pet guard.
They're following a court system. They may tell you you're the greatest person in the world to your face, and you're doing a great job with your children, and I'm impressed with you, and keep it up. But they may give you bad advice at the same time.
Oh,
and the bad advice that you get could be, which in my case, when I had custody of my children, was from the law guardian, your ex is going to get back custody of the children at some point in time. It might not be today, but it'll be 6 months from now. So what did I do? I said, well, if it's going to be 6 months from now, let's make it now. Let's go 50-50. I made the greatest mistake by saying, let's go 50-50. 50-50 meaning I, once again, believed in the world of fairness that we each had 50% custody of our own children. What, in fact, I did was gave up my own rights to my children. And you know, I guess the question earlier was, what is the worst thing that happened to us? And is that, how was it phrased? I think it was like, what is the worst thing that happened to you, or what led to where you are today? The worst thing that happened to me, unfortunately, I'm going to blame on myself, was ignorance of the law. I was ignorant to the fact that I was able to walk in someplace, believe that I was walking into a system that played fairly, that all attorneys were treated equally in a courtroom, and that all cases were heard fairly.
All those things aren't really all in law. A lot of them are in the structure of a court system that allows a law to be utilized as a tool or a weapon against you, which I think that may have happened to you.
Yes, the legal system becomes a weapon against. I have heard the word yelled at me many times, not in the last couple of years, but my ex used to yell at me and say the word deadbeat dad. This deadbeat dad has averaged in income over to his ex between $300,000 and $400,000 a year over the last 7 years. I'd like to see anybody in the world, in the real existing world today, say that that's a deadbeat dad. I've probably given more than most people earn in a lifetime, and I am now facing bankruptcy and jail.
Yeah, it isn't their number that they're looking at. It's the fact that they decide what number it is, assign a penalty period of time, and they access it. And that's just all it is. It's just coercing you to get to this point that they decide is.
And I don't know when you can cry uncle, because you literally sit, and you can sit at night and you can stare at the ceiling all you want, and the tears can come down, and you can say, I don't know how I'm going to get up for work tomorrow. And not only don't I know how I'm going to get up for work tomorrow, but tomorrow morning when I wake up, and I think we talked about this earlier, just joking around, I said, I think it costs me $400 a day to get out of bed.
Yeah.
That's just before I get out of bed.
Right.
And hold that above anybody's head and see how
you can function
how you can
normally.
function.
Yeah, sure.
How do you say, you will go after any deal, you will run around, you will do almost anything to try to make the system work, but it's like fixing something that's so far broken that you can't fix it.
Well, it's not really broken. I always tell people say it's broken, and I always tell people this is not broken. This is where the system is designed to work. It's designed to extract all your money from you.
It's a money grab.
Remove you from your children's life, and at the end, you're going to give up. Everybody has a breaking point.
Yeah.
You may be a strong guy.
What does giving up mean?
Giving up means you say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. They want to put me in. I'm not going to fight to see my kids. I'm not going to fight the downward mods. I'm not going to give lawyers any money. And whatever happens, happens, and you end up in jail, and then you get 6 months out.
Yeah.
But
I won't go quietly. I won't go quietly into the night.
Right.
And
Let's
the
put it
state,
that way. That's not
gets to
happening.
say,
most people have their breaking point.
The state gets to say, well, we need more money because we were able to get this amount of money, and we have this amount of money left in arrears to collect, and we need help with that. So we need our Enforcement Bureau to have more teeth in it, or more power within it, and we're just access tools. Anybody who falls into that, right? Yeah. You're just a tool so that they can continue.
But as much as our lives are destroyed, I'm watching my children's lives get destroyed was the most helpless feeling as it is, and then being stripped of your rights as a parent when I did nothing wrong was just unbelievable to me. I just sit there, you know, like, how did the situation I had was so obvious that how did I lose
it may be
children?
obvious, but you never know. It's something you learn as you doing this, and I've been doing this for 11 years, and Chris about 20. It's always something behind the scenes that you know. Maybe the lawyer is friends with the judge. Maybe the law guardian is friends. Maybe your ex has a contact.
And unfortunately, all that's possible.
Well, that's
somewhere.
What I said. That's the unfair part of it. Lawyer A could be better, it's better known, better liked, more common and accustomed to that particular courtroom. Oh, it's so hard because I'm sitting here and I know that my case is coming up, and you know what the worst feeling is? That some judges that's going to be seeing me is going to be saying, look what he says about us on TV, but you know what the truth of the matter is? There are lawyers who know judges, because you know what, I've gone to events where they were charity functions in my older days where we were raising money for judges. Yeah. So all of a sudden my world has come full circle, and I am now realizing that the people who stood in that room raising the money or rubbed elbows all night have a far better chance of winning than maybe the attorney I have. And you know what? The more you get beaten, the less you're spending on your attorneys. And the more you lose, the more your spouse is spending on their attorneys. I'm up against an attorney who's 500 something bucks an hour. I don't, and forget just the money. It's just a ludicrous situation because I happen to know that the law firm that I'm fighting happens to have a wife who's a judge within my same court system.
And there's a high probability that that connection is what's forcing you in the position you're in.
I'm in a miserable position.
Yeah. I mean, this is what happens to a lot of us, unfortunately.
And you know what? The worst part is we drag our now I am dragging my children into it because I'm saying, Dad can't take any more, and please talk to Mom, because we haven't spoken in 7 years.
Yeah. The courts can't do peaceful. They can't do peaceful. They can't step mediation. I'm a mediator. So what we do is peaceful. We get people to talk about what's going on in their lives and we help them solution. I'm not going to get too far into that, but the point I'm trying to make is that they don't do peaceful. So the courts are happy to see you guys fight.
Oh, they love it.
Oh, yeah.
If you went into court and said, you know what, we're going to go outside, but we don't need lawyers. We're going to fire the lawyers and work out. That wouldn't happen. They said, don't do that. They're not going to. You need somebody to advocate for you. How'd you get along all those other years?
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't work out. But you know, it takes two people. And honestly, if both parents really love their children, then it works out.
Yeah.
But when you have one person, and I'll say, I never met your wife. She doesn't care. She hates you more than she loves her children.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the equation.
Because
I wanted to
otherwise, she
hear.
would say, you know what, my kids are taken care of.
I want
Thank God they're
to
happy.
have a weird defense. She truly loves her children, but yes, she probably hates me more.
She
Yes.
hates you more than she loves them, right. Well, I'm not
I,
saying she doesn't love them. I'm saying she hates you more, and she's willing to let the kids suffer. And I don't know her, so I'm just hypothesizing because she could stop this. You shouldn't be in court.
No.
You shouldn't be in court.
No,
She should say you're taking care of your kids. They've been fed well. We've had a nice life. And hopefully, God willing, you'll get back on your feet, your business will turn around, and she'll make even more money.
and we'll figure out something, because the interesting part is, even college educations, my kids were taken care of. I still remember, because I was very big into education. My kids had their college money put away at 4 and 8 years old.
Yeah, well, that's
Or
good.
it may have been, I'm going to say, 2004, so my son,
You're that kind of person that will come up with something, and not everybody. Gary's the kind of person who's a strong advocate. I can see Melissa's a strong advocate also. But look at all those other people out there who can't do
nearly
anything. They can't
destroyed us.
take one step forward. They're wondering how they're going to walk and stay alive and sleep through the night.
I was amazed when I met Melissa and just hearing her story the first time and thinking, oh my God, what happens if I didn't have my kids? Would I have had any will to fight? And I was so impressed meeting her and thinking, oh my God, here's somebody who's found a will to fight and recognizes that somewhere along the line in the future, maybe the world will change for her.
There's not enough of us. It's up to us to do programs like this to let the world know that these things are very real. This is tangible evidence. You guys are tangible evidence to the cause. This is what we do. And we do this probably better than anybody. Everybody else is in the program that's like this. We're more revealing than anybody else out there.
I love what Gary says. It needs to have sunlight on it. It's got to disinfect. You've got to bring these horrible cases out because you're not just alone. I think when I saw this program, that was the biggest comfort. So if there's a listener out there, you're not alone. Reach out to the organization, find out, because there's a lot of strength and support. We saw it with Dr. Carlos. There was nearly 60 of us at the courthouse, and he didn't go to jail that day. It's another day to fight. It's another day to get through it, and doing it in unison.
Well, I think what people start to think is when you're not surrounded by people who have been abused by the system, and that's what it is, you start to say, maybe it's me. How did this happen to me? Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I'm not who I think I am.
And if there's a
You
slightest
start to
little
self-doubt.
weakness in your personality,
Which
you're
we
going
all
to
have. None of us are perfect.
They're going to find the hole and go after it.
Exactly.
But how many mornings do you wake up and I think everybody lives in life with the saying in their head, am I good enough? And that saying builds and builds and builds because you start feeling not only inadequate to your children, you feel inadequate in your job and everywhere else. And this just advances a system that perpetuates parents not being able to be strong parents and say to their kids, don't worry, no matter what happens, I'm there to take care of you.
And you now have that problem of doing exactly that.
Exactly.
In my case, I thought it would be better to be beaten by my ex-husband every day. I'd rather have a broken face and get to kiss my kids goodnight
Yeah, sure.
than live the horror I live now.
Yeah, there's no connection to that. I mean, I've had the same situation. I'm sure Gary, and I'm sure you have too, Mark. I mean, we feel you crumbles you, it humiliates you.
Right.
You feel that pressure day to day, and people can't recognize this. They just assume you're a deadbeat. The assumption or the narrative that's being carried is this language about owing, debt conscious.
Right.
And this is what carries the momentum for the states to continue to get more money and the federal government to repay the states for collecting the money.
There's so many.
This is not us anymore. It's not our kids. It's certainly not a best interest scenario. I saw the movie Divorce Corp. I think you ever saw it. There's a lot of need for all of us to see that. Go to Divorce Corp and see the movie because it really is an eye opener. But it is exactly, very, very much what you will know is ahead of you if you happen to be, if divorce is imminent in your life. And
I would think if you're contemplating divorce, whether there's domestic violence or not, I think there's much better solutions than going to the courthouse. I think that
This is staying together. I've said to people, sort of half kidding, but half not kidding.
Oh my God.
My wife was a sick woman. Is a sick woman. She really is. She wasn't a good mother. She was a horrible wife. But you know what? For what it did to my kids, I would have stayed with her for the next 10 years and been miserable, so that my kids wouldn't have had to go through the suffering. And I have so much love to give to my children that they went 11 years without my love, without my parents, without.
And you're still paying for this while this is going on.
Well, there's always the hindsight. If we always had hindsight.
Right.
That would be
Gary,
the
what's
greatest
the
thing
bang
in
for
the
the
world.
buck out of this, Gary?
But if people are watching right now,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to, and Melissa's saying is, she would rather be beaten by her husband than go through what she went through. And
Right.
I tell people, they talk about you going to jail. You know what? There is still no greater punishment than taking away somebody's children. I would much rather,
Right.
if they said to me at the beginning, Gary, you have a choice. You can spend 5 years in jail when your kids are older, or we're going to take away your kids from you now. I would jump on going to jail.
Right.
I would absolutely jump.
As long as it would keep them
get-
healthy, sure.
If they said you can go in and get beaten, waterboarded, I would take that over losing my children. That's
yeah.
ripping a piece of your body away from you, and you never get that. You never get that time back.
That's right.
People say that your kids will come around.
People like us should never be sitting here having this conversation. That should not be the choice in life. The choice in life should be that there is an equality in all of us taking care of our children, that there should be.
Right.
With unequivocally, there should be only joint custody, unless it's proven
Right,
that one
right.
parent is
Unless it's
truly
unfit.
to be
Right.
a parent.
I don't even know about unfit.
And by the way, how do you determine that? You're going to leave it up to a
Right.
law party?
I don't want to leave it up to that.
Not me.
I say let the kids figure. You know what? People who have mental illness, people who are abusive, they're allowed to have kids. This is America, and you know what? Let the children, when they get older,
Yeah.
they'll see the light. I think it's better being with a bad parent than not having that parent at all.
That's a whole other story because everybody's afraid of conflict. A certain amount of conflict has to exist a little bit in everybody's life.
teaches
Otherwise,
kids
you
to
don't know
grow.
how to defend yourself and grow later
Absolutely.
on. The idea that you can eliminate conflict in someone's life is an impossible notion, which is what some of this legislation
you deny
went.
the children who they are. I thought when everything was happening, the courts and
That's a good
everything,
point,
they were
yeah.
cutting him out of their life, and I thought, but my son's not going to know where he came from. He's not going to understand why he acts the way he does or thinks the way he does, and to cut my sons out of their lives is just cruel. I'd be worse than him.
Well,
if I
both
did
of what
that.
the two of you were saying earlier is really the answer is we need mediation, a full
Right.
mediation
Right.
first. You should have to go somewhere for a week and be forced to sit.
Sure.
I don't care if it's with a court clerk and
I
actually
guarantee you it's
talk
not
through
going to take years like it does for these
Yeah.
people.
all of our fears and
Yeah.
what our goals are, and somebody should explain from day one what it really means to go through a divorce. Because when a divorce happens, for me, I was standing outside my office and a server handed me the papers in a parking lot, and I remember sitting there and pulling off to the side of the road and saying, "This is real." And I looked at those papers, and you get an attorney, and you start. But no one has ever told you what all of the pitfalls are and all of the problems are. There should always be some sort of a
Right.
mediation first that explains you are signing away certain rights, you are signing away.
Well, this is what this show is doing, so thank you for repeating that. That needed to be said.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the important thing is,
Yeah,
I know
they'll sign.
we say it every
Yeah.
week, but don't sign
Can't be
a
enough. Can't be
stipulation.
said enough, right?
Don't sign a stipulation.
A lot of people are saying
And
don't get the attorney.
Don't be afraid of judges.
Right.
Because
Yes.
when your attorney walks in the room and says, the judge is getting angry, if we don't get the paper signed within the next 15 minutes, there's going to be a lot of problems.
Right.
And then you go into panic mode. You know what?
Yeah.
Screw the panic. Screw the fact that the judge wants you. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that on TV, but anybody else. But wait. Take a day, go home and breathe, and then think, I'm going to come back and sign that paper if I so choose, and only then.
Good
Don't
message.
be afraid
Thank you.
to go to trial.
We got about 30 seconds left. Just one thing the divorce court movie did is it told us that the lawyers in the system are making money off of the backs of children. Just the sound of that is what it is, but it sounds awkward maybe to say it. Even I'm having a little trouble saying it, but that's what it is. It's about the children. What kind of they're used as pawns, and it's off the backs that they make this money. Thank you very much, Melissa Shea, Gary Jacobs, and Mark Schwaber. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was a cornerstone of our great American culture. And at FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every week. We always invite all opposing views. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.
Properly inflating my tires burns less fuel and saves me money on gas. Yeah, I'm saving Mother Nature from pollution, but more importantly, she saved me 11 bucks. Ow!
Environmental defense. Get green.
By keeping my car regularly tuned, I save money on gas and repairs. That also means cleaner air. You know, feels good to help save the cash, planet.
Environmental defense. Get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
Introducing the all-new Enclave. It's a minivan to the max, with features like remote control sliding rear doors, 150 cable channels, a full sky view roof, temperature-controlled cup holders, and the 6-point navigation system. It's the minivan for families on the go.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promise.
Okay, hon.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promise.
What kind of man are you? I'm a father. Look here, my father was a father, and he smoked his brains out in the house.
Watch as he blows those smoke rings on my little red face.
You probably have asthma.
Asthma? Schmasma. I'm telling you, nothing's gonna happen to your kids.
Don't swear when you're lying. You know very well that thousands of kids get bronchitis, ear infections, and even pneumonia from their parents' cigarette smoke. And didn't you promise your little angels you'd smoke outside?
Hey, Daddy.
Those little devils are just so sweet.
Do the right thing.
Please, smoke outside.
Until you can stop, go out for your kids.
Take the pledge.
Call 1-800-513-1157.